Hi. The other day somebody asked me, how do you know what's the right question to ask on this journey of inquiry? Well, questions are really important, as we know, and they serve two purposes. One is they help you go deeper to understand what's going on in the deeper layers of your thinking, so you understand yourself better. The other big role questions can play is they give you a different way of looking at the same situation. When you begin asking questions, the first thing to keep in mind is what's the spirit behind that question? How are you feeling? It's important that we begin with a sense of curiosity, with not knowing. Sometimes our questions are quite barbed and almost piercing sometimes because they come with a judgment behind them. So if we ask an open question with a sense of curiosity and with sense of kindness and compassion towards ourselves, I think that's the first step, because that leads to new discoveries about ourselves or about the situation that we're faced with. So let's begin with a couple of examples. Say a friend of mine, I ask him to do something for me, and he says, no, I'm too busy. I actually know he's not busy, but he says he's too busy. So I get hurt, I start getting angry with him, I think of how I can retaliate, I withdraw my affection, I don't call him for a few days. That's the old pattern. So then I'm observing, I step away from myself, I'm looking at myself and seeing, what's going on here? Then I notice this pattern going on. So then I'm curious and I say, what question can I ask to explore this further? So the first question could be, who's responsible for meeting my expectations? Or why am I hurt? That could be the first one. So I'm hurt because my expectations not met. Okay. Where do these expectations come from? Well, they come from me. Who's responsible for meeting this expectation you have? Well, my mind assumes the other person is, but if you turn the tables and say, if other people held you responsible for meeting all their expectations and you had so many relationships, how would you feel? Well, that doesn't sound good either. So then I begin to realize that actually I need to be responsible for my own expectations. I can make a request, but it's not a demand. So you see, already I've stopped being angry with my friend. I'm learning something new about myself. And I ask, hey, where do these expectations come from? And when I look, I don't even know where they come from. If I go deeper, I realize, they come from my unconscious conditioning, where I expect people to do things that I want them to do for me, especially if I think we're close or in a relationship. Nothing wrong with that. It's just unconscious in the way my mind functions. So then I come to the point where I realize, I can request somebody to do something, but they're perfectly entitled to say no. And if they do, I need to be able to accept it without getting hurt, angry, retaliating, following the old pattern. That seems like it's the intelligent thing to do. Or let me give you a different example of how you can find another way of looking at the same situation. So say I've failed an exam and my world's come crashing down on me and I feel it's the end of the world. All my friends have passed. Oh, woe betide me. What's going to happen? So then I ask myself, hey, okay, what's going on? So I'm feeling terrible, I failed. I say, what's another way of looking at the same situation? That's a tough question, because at the moment I can't think of another way of looking at this sense of failure. And what's another way to respond? Well, another question could be, what can you learn from what's happened? So I could learn something about myself, for example, that I didn't really put the work in. I could learn how to deal with failure. What are the other ways of dealing with failure? And is there another way to respond? Well, it could be that I can sit the exam again in 6 months' time. And what could be the benefit of what's happened? Well, I could learn something about myself, learn how to deal with failure, I could learn something more about the subject, and so on. So in every situation, there are other ways to respond. Or if, take the first example, say my friend didn't do something that I asked, and I got upset with him, I could ask myself, well, is there another way of seeing the same situation? And it could be that I don't really know what's going on in his life right now. He could be super stressed about something which I don't know about. Or he might just be having a bad day. Whatever it is, the question always offers us different ways or perspectives on the same situation. And often in that, our stress can dissolve. So, to summarize, questions are really important. They open the door to inquiry and lead to wisdom, but they need to be asked with a sense of curiosity, with a mind that's open to learning, with kindness towards ourselves and a sense of compassion. And in that spirit of learning, we learn something new about ourselves and grow in wisdom.